Hard week, y'all. If you're here because you are worried, if you're going through a hard time, or if you are worried about somebody else who is, please reach out. We have a lay pastoral care team we can connect you with. Mary is there in a beige stole. She can connect with her during the service if needed, or afterwards, or you can reach out through email or phone to our pastoral care team anytime during the week. I do have one announcement, which is that, as many of you will have received an email yesterday, Reverend Vertus has exciting news for him, sad news for us, that he has accepted a full-time position as the minister in New London, Connecticut. So, yes, we are very excited for him. And that'll be effective on August 1st, so a quick turnaround, but there will be an opportunity for us. There'll be a message in the newsletter this upcoming week from him, a more full statement, and then we will have an opportunity to say goodbye and celebrate his ministry with us and his ministry going forward in worship on August 10th, which also, by the way, will be the first Sunday that Reverend Sherry, our lead minister, returns from their sabbatical. So, I don't know. It's probably too late in the process to request Hello, Goodbye by the Beatles, but that's sort of what came to my mind of like, all right, welcome back, Reverend Sherry, and goodbye, Reverend Vertus. But so, with all the transitions of our life, of our community, we come together on Sundays for worship. Please center yourself in what way is best for you, perhaps shuffling your body as needed, taking a breath. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral and contemporary lands First Unitarian now stands. Now I'm going to invite another one of our elders, Kathleen, up to light our chalice as we share in the unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
And now I invite you to rise in body and spirit one more time as we sing, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has right us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, on the way from deep within you, you can change the world with your love. Now we're gonna have the clapping that we didn't have that last time. I was like, we're gonna do it, but didn't come. So we're gonna go, love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. One more time. Love will guide us Peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Thank you.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Is it working? Yes. Awesome. My name is John Randall. I'm a member of First Unitarian, and welcome everybody. Last week, Mary and I have discovered this wonderful program, The Great British. Okay, I'm not going to move. The Great British Sewing Bee. And we had just finished the first season, and she got up for a moment and said, look at what's on PBS. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I brought up the PBS page. I said, yeah, let's enjoy it while we still have it. And I found the interview that Bill Moyers did with Joseph Campbell, which of course was done decades ago, but nonetheless still great, timeless, The Power of Myth. And I said, I'm not sure I'm in the mood for this, but let's check it out and see how it goes. And we got totally immersed in it. It's just fascinating. And it was only a half an hour. It felt like about 2 lifetimes worth of wisdom. And afterwards, she just kind of said, almost under her breath, what troubles me about that is it's really from the patriarchal point of view. And so inside of me, I thought, how dare you disparage the great Joseph Campbell? But luckily, I didn't say that. And I said, okay, this is an opportunity for deep listening. Okay. I'm going to try to figure out what about that provoked this reaction, because I have 100% trust in my wife's ability to be grounded and, speak her truth. So I thought, yeah, he told us 3 stories. So this is after, I'm going to diverge for a second. So the first part of it, they're talking about myths, and then Bill Moyers, of course, I'm sure he was told, well, ask me this question. How did myths change when we moved from a hunter society to an agrarian society? And of course, you get into the idea of life requires death, and life arises from death. And so these 3 stories reflected that new awareness. But all 3 of the stories had a male protagonist, and there was a woman in the 3 stories, and she was kind of an incidental character, kind of a prop. All of the important stuff was about this man's journey. And isn't that why we come to church? To have our perspectives widened and to be able to see the world the way others see it.
morning. I'm Amanda, the Director of Religious Education, and I'd like to invite the children to come forward for the time for all ages. Yeah, it's a little tricky. All right. Come on forward. Awesome. So good to see you. I have to stand like kind of close to you because if I back up, we'll start getting feedback. Maybe I'll stand over here. That might be a little easier, then I can see you better. Right. Come on down. You can have a seat right over here, too. You can fill in this spot here. There's lots of room. We want to head right over there. So if anybody didn't hear at the beginning when Reverend AJ announced it, we are being led by the elders in our community this morning. So I have a story about two grandmothers. Maybe you have a grandmother or grandfather who's a really important person in your life. Is that true for anybody here? Yeah? Maybe some of you as well. So Valerie loved both of her grandmothers more than she could say. Granny June lived just down the street, and Valerie stopped by most days after school to help out in the garden and eat the best chocolate chip cookies ever. Valerie's Nana Beverly lived an hour away. She only saw her once a month, but when she did, she usually got to stay overnight. It's pretty fun. So Granny June's house was small with a winding path to the door and gardens all around it. Granny June loved fresh cut flowers and drinking tea on the shady front porch. Nana Bev was a painter, and she had a special set of paints and brushes for Valerie to use whenever she visited. Together, they would paint in Nana Bev's studio, which had big windows that let the light in. Nana Bev loved coffee, and sometimes Valerie got to have a little coffee with a lot of milk and sugar. So Valerie's favorite subject in school was science. Anybody here like science? Learning about science? Yeah. She loved learning about animals, where they lived, what they ate, and how they survived. One day at school, Valerie's class started learning about climate change and some of the big problems about what's happening to our Earth, partly because of human behavior, some things that human beings are doing that are contributing to damage to the planet. Now, this really bothered Valerie. And when she visited Granny June after school, Valerie told her what was on her mind. "Sounds like time to take action," said Granny June. Valerie asked her what she meant, and Granny June replied, "Let me tell you a story. When I was a younger woman, I started noticing how unfair things were for girls and women around me. Not being treated like we were strong or smart as the boys around us, not getting paid the same as men for doing the same jobs, or being expected to be the ones who stayed home to take care of the children and keep the house clean. So I didn't think that was fair, and I heard about something called women's liberation, and I got involved. We did a lot of protesting and demanding change. We even took over a building one time to show how powerful we were and that we weren't going to stop raising our voices, no matter what. It was a very important thing to take a stand for, and it's important to stand up for the things that you believe in," Granny June said to Valerie. So Valerie never knew this about Granny June. She never knew that her Granny June was an activist. And so the next time she visited her Nana Bev, she told her all about it. And do you know what Nana Bev said? She said, guess what? I have a few stories of my own to tell you. And she began to tell Valerie all about her involvement in the civil rights movement. Nana Bev and her friends had also marched in the streets. They did sit-ins at lunch counters where the owners wouldn't serve black people. And once, Nana Bev had even been arrested for her activism. So, Valerie was wondering how she had never known this about her grandmothers. She was surprised and kind of impressed. The next week at school, Valerie learned that there was going to be a march in town to protest climate change, and that it would be led by young people. So after asking her parents, Valerie signed up to help get things ready for the march. Valerie made signs and she met new friends. And the day of the event, can you guess who joined Valerie to march for climate justice? Who do you think it was? Her grandmothers, Grandma June and Nana Bev. So may this story of marching for justice across the generations unfold in your hearts until we are together again. And we can raise our voices to sing the children out to their adventures. You can come right behind me. Let's go this way.
And your sad times too, you bless us by being you.
Please join me now in the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer, beginning with a moment of shared silence. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us. Divine presence known by many names and in many ways. Be with us. Let us breathe you in. Let us breathe out the love you are known to be. Spirit of love, we come weary from the news of the world. We come hungry for justice and out of patience for the wrongdoing by those in power. We come seeking community, seeking to see and be seen for who we are, authentically, with all our struggles and our joys. We seek a humble, joyful life lived in alignment with our deepest values. And some days it feels like a massive struggle simply to show up to one another, to our communities, to ourselves, to the dawn of a new day and the headlines that it brings, to the changes and transitions of life. Spirit of hope and resilience, remind us that all is not lost. It never is. Though destruction and chaos get worse and worse, may we hold fast to the conviction that it is always worth fighting, always worth lifting our voices, always worth staying in community and staying in relationship and doing the hard work. That the end is not yet written and the future may be changed by our own hands and hearts and voices. I pray that all the hungry and starving are fed now. I pray that all the firing weapons cease now. I pray that every person kidnapped by the state be released now. I pray that every truth may be named now. I pray that every violation of dignity is given over to repentance and repair now. Spirit of wisdom and truth, release us from the need to categorize people, including ourselves, maybe ourselves most as all, as good or as bad, in black and white absolute terms. Let us hold the complexity of our grayscale existence. We humans are wondrous, monstrous, wondrous beings containing multitudes and contradictions and possibilities galore. May the spiritual discipline of love lead us always to hold this truth close, seeking the best in others and holding those responsible for harm accountable. May we hold ourselves accountable to truth and love before all else. Spirit, community, ancestors, descendants, I am worn and I am weary, and I commit myself to the cause of love again and again and again, as many times as it takes. Amen, and blessed be. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, I invite you to bring to mind whatever grief or gratitude or growth is alive within you this morning. Online, you're invited to share what that is in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, you're invited forward to one of our altar tables to light a candle. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please simply raise your hand. And I will begin by lighting a candle for Paul Miner, whose health has turned for the worse, and he has made the decision to enter hospice care for his final days. We hold our love for him and his wife, Judy Bennett, in our hearts. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
We practice this, and I still get it out of order sometimes. All right, it's warm, so let's remain seated, but let's join in singing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Let's do this one more time all together. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you.
All that our church is and all that our church does is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring gifts, and on Sundays, we also give through this shared collection. As part of the spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now to our offering will go to Rock LGBTQ+ Together Mutual Aid, an organization which helps LGBTQIA Two-Spirit plus folks in Rochester and Monroe County. Food, toiletries, rent, utilities, medications, transportation, and important information about community giveaways, internships, free trainings, and job openings. Using the church center is the easiest way to give, but if you aren't set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you would like to give to the number on the screen or in the offering baskets that will now be passed. And in the spirit of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
No, there we go. Oh, face it. Got it. My name is Susie Farrell, and I am just shy of 67 years old. I'm happy to, oh, thank you. I'm happy to see you all and support we elders. Two concepts which are often intertwined are spirituality and justice. Think of the 60s and 70s when civil rights and anti-war movements were going on. Before the march or rally, the leader would sometimes pray. They would draw their people around them, often holding hands to set the tone of solidarity. Their words were powerful and directed towards issues of justice. That pause before the rally helped maintain the focus and commitment of the group. I started thinking about those two words, spirituality and justice, and how, for me, they relate to one another. They both are words that arise from deep inside. Which feeling was I able to identify first? Where did that emotion come from? And how has it evolved to include the second word? For me, the spiritual beliefs came first. They involve something sacred, like the deep care and compassion I have for my family, friends, nature, and the earth. If I sense an injustice, I am moved to speak up or think of an action I can take. I'm reminded of a time an elementary school teacher told me I was my child's most important advocate. That awakened something deep inside me to act and make things right for my child. One example I have is from some volunteer work I did for a few summers. From May to November, I volunteered at a CSA, a community-supported agriculture farm. Volunteers were asked to be involved in all aspects of the farm work throughout the entire season. I developed a deep love for the vegetables as I spent hours cultivating the soil between the plants. I poured my energy and sweat equity into the work. I knew firsthand what it took to create the beautiful product. As I handed the shares over to the excited members, I urged them to do justice to that produce, store it correctly, and create a nutritious meal. Another time, a minister friend shared how dependent our animals are on us to feed and provide care for them. This came at a time I needed to hear those words, as I struggled to know when to euthanize our dying dog. I took the advice to heart and studied our pet to help navigate her final days. And now, in these tumultuous times, I choose to actively pursue social action due to my value of justice and equity for all. As I join my fellow protesters in 12 Corners on Friday nights, I'm inspired by their commitment and fueled by the injustices surrounding our nation. I also find a sense of connection and interdependence with the others. The creative signs and t-shirts are kind of fun too. These are just some of my examples of being moved by the value of justice based on spirituality. Some of you may find your spiritual life is completely separate from any social justice work. For me, though, I have a sense of responsibility which I have to act on. Now, for my final question, where did my attitude come from? I can trace it back to my mother, Ruth Macy, who had a quiet determination about her. Somewhat of an introvert, she still spoke when she felt strongly about an issue. She wrote a little limerick about herself at some time in her life, and it goes like this. There once was a girl named Ruth who swore she'd always tell the truth. She said she would die before she would lie, and she died in the prime of her youth.
How am I going to follow that? When I was, before I was a teenager, I had a strong feeling, strong belief in fairness and honesty. Can we lower the mic just a tad? Thank you. But I had little awareness of justice issues on a larger scale. This changed with the work of Dr. Martin Luther King and the fight for civil rights around 1965. I became aware of the large number of Americans subject to injustice. Justice came to mean fair treatment under the law and equal opportunities to work and pursue life, liberty, and happiness. I also became aware of the other meaning of justice, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This principle frightened me as I couldn't help but picture my eye being gouged out. In 1970, I was eligible for the draft, and I went to my pastor to discuss becoming a conscientious objector. I asked him to clarify how the Christian church could condone war. And he said that, quote, we had an obligation to defend ourselves. At that time, I was very familiar with the Bible, and I replied that I don't see that in the Bible. He had no response, leaving me with the feeling that the words and rituals were empty, similar to public confession, which somehow assuages one's guilt without requiring any change. In college, I participated in Vietnam War protests. I recall once talking to my parents before heading out, and my mother saying tearfully, "Be careful, honey, those people are dangerous." To which I replied, "Mom, I am those people." I was confused by her use of those people, and I felt part of a movement for justice. I felt strongly that the war was unjustified and therefore unjust. With the visibility given to civil rights and feminism, I felt that we as a society shared the aspiration to be more just. I tended to discount evidence to the contrary because I found and still find this belief to be comforting. In 1985, I bought a BMW. It was a decision that I struggled with because I felt that spending so much on a car was not justified. A friend offered this advice: if you want it and you can afford it, buy it. It was a much simpler way to see things. I think it's a common occurrence in a privileged society. Just ignore those justice issues. Shortly after that, I was reading the owner's manual, and I came across a statement which seemed very odd for an automobile user's manual. If you are competing with another driver for a space, you can yield to them knowing that yours is the superior automobile. This same friend recognized this as noblesse oblige, which was new to me. I learned that this moral principle requires that someone with privilege, or a noble, is obligated to be fair to those under them. It seemed notable to me that this notion of not abusing your privilege was part of the canon, even if not always observed. When I graduated from engineering school in 1975 and tried to land a job with Hewlett-Packard, I learned that another applicant had been selected. To console me, a friend said, "Well, she might have been black." This ignores the fact that there were lots of reasons I might not have been the best candidate and shows how easy it is to fall into the trap of trying to perpetuate your privilege. At that moment, I had lost my sense of being part of the fight for justice. Recently, I joined a book group, or I was invited to join by my dear friend John Farrell, a book group here at First Unitarian. All the members are interested in historical nonfiction, and we have explored numerous topics together. Some of these books have made me painfully aware of injustices done by my fellow Americans. In particular, the two books, An Indigenous People's History of the United States and How to Hide an Empire, expose the distortions, omissions of our educational system, our news, and our entertainment channels. For example, from the indigenous point of view, Columbus did not discover America, he invaded it. I struggled to finish several of these books as they filled me with helpless outrage at the injustices they described. I hold to the conviction that it's possible to do better if people with power work for justice. The words of Sting resonate for me from the song Driven to Tears. My comfortable existence is reduced to a shallow, meaningless party. In summary, with my 73 years behind me, I have grown increasingly aware of the injustices which led to my existence, and my task now is to try to find ways to stop perpetuating them.
I'm Grace Carswell. justice, equality, fairness, respect. I think my first awareness of the lack of justice came out of my early past in Savannah, Georgia. Maybe I inherited it because before I was 2, my dad was run off from a small rural church in South Georgia where he was pastor because he was accused of being an inward lover. But no, since I was adopted, inheritance probably had nothing to do with it. But both my parents had ethics that were unusual given the situations we were living in. My first real participation with justice work happened when I was in Chester, Pennsylvania, just south of Philly, in the 1960s. First, I wrote, talked, marched, and loudly proclaimed how unjust attitudes about women were. And if there was a demonstration or a march, I was there, righteously indignant and outraged. And I resisted. I was young, and at times I'm sure I sounded foolish for those times. But I was fighting for my civil rights. My attitudes about civil rights for non-whites, especially blacks, were finally honed through my frequent participation in protest, still in Chester, Pennsylvania. The Martin Luther King School for Social Change was an innovative school teaching grassroots organizing and part of the Crozer Seminary where I lived. Later, that school merged with Colgate Rochester here. I went with those young adult black students to protest all over the Philly area, which was a hotbed of nonviolent justice activities, which often became violent. And at that time, I really learned what it was like to be the only white person at a rally. I wanted to be invisible. I felt paranoid and scared about the guards on the stage protecting Malcolm X's wife. I was scared about what might happen to me. And those feelings and that experience changed my life forever. And then there were my anti-war activities. I faced a lot of opposition from friends because of my resisting stance on the war. But the things that I did in those years, really before I was 35 or 40, were not really what was important. Lots of people objected and demonstrated about things in those days. But it was what changed in me, what I learned about myself, my prejudices, my attitudes, and what I learned about my country. That's what really shaped my inner and outer attitudes about my life. Thinking about what was my calling, what I could do with my time and my energy, whether or not I could make even a small difference in all of the injustices I saw around me in my country and that I saw as I traveled internationally. That's what became core in my search for the meaning of my life. As a library media specialist, really known as a librarian in the Rochester City School District schools, I saw firsthand the effects of multiple injustices on the kids that I worked with: racial, economic, educational, cultural, all at once. So now at 87, I find myself on Fridays from 5 to 6, joining others from this congregation, and I'm carrying a big sign that says, "Resist," with 2 American flags at the corners. Really, I think I'm pretty good at resisting. Just ask the friends who are real close to me. Learning about justice work and doing whatever small thing I can do is central to my spiritual practice. In this crazy country that I am now living in, I may not be able to see any difference because of what I say or what I do. But I go on. My mantra, if not now, when? And at my age, I have no time to waste.
Okay, just making sure. Please rise in body and spirit one more time as we sing, we laugh, we cry. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, we will finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Thank you again to Susie and John and Grace for offering their reflections and their journeys with us. And of course, the opportunities for lifelong learning and growth and community connection do not end just when worship does. We have connections following the service. As I mentioned, the Inquiry series will be in that room in that corner back there. We'll be talking about membership. This is what democracy looks like. Some of the folks responsible for those Friday protests will be gathering in the basement, not out on the SBA patio, but in the basement room, the lower meeting room. And the nature-based spirituality group will be leading a multi-generational connection all about the first harvest Lunasa, the Sabbath that is coming up. There will be treats from the field and reflections from within each of us. So please join one of the connections to continue to build spiritual connection in community together. Please join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The arc of the moral universe is long, and there is much work to be done. May our perspectives span the generations. May we reflect and grow all throughout our lives, and may justice be the birthright of our descendants. Go in peace. I love you. Blessed be.